G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, review of the week time. So, first review of 2023, recorded on the 1st, going live on the 2nd. There's not been a great deal to really talk about. I don't know if we'll do a midweek report this week, just because I don't know necessarily if there's going to be that much breaking news between now and then. As I said, January could be a hit and a miss. It kind of tends to be in the middle of January when things start popping off with regards to news, fights being announced, fights being made, etc, etc. But obviously there is a fight that's happening this coming Saturday, which is Gervonta Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia. That fight is reportedly going to go ahead. Now obviously Gervonta Tank Davis has had a rather eventful week, so I obviously was reporting on the alleged incident that took place between him and the mother of his child. He's since been released. The mother of his child has now released a statement. It was basically saying emotions were running high and made an unnecessary call to law enforcement in an intense moment. She says that Tank Davis did no harm or anything. Now, look, I'm not going to go in depth on this situation. At the end of the day, he's going to be fighting Hector Luis Garcia. I don't think he needs all this going into a fight, although saying that Hector Luis Garcia, I doubt that he's going to cause Tank Davis too many issues. But, you know, the whole situation, I mean, Tank Davis to me, he's a fighter who has so much potential. I've said that about him before. And he just seems to, drama just seems to follow him. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. It just seems to follow him. I mean, I don't think there's been a year since he's become champion, which was I think back in 2017, that there's not been something, you know. And I think he's got so much talent. And it just seems like over the last 5 years, between stuff that's happened outside the ring and stuff that's been happening inside the ring, you know, not being able to go down the Lomachenko route, etc, etc. I mean, you want to compare like for like. You look at the way Tank Davis is older than Devin Haney, right? Devin Haney, I think, is what, 21, 22, 23? He's in his early 20s. Tank Davis is now in his mid-20s. Late 20s, actually. He's 28 now. When Tank Davis was Devin Haney's age, he was world champion. And I know, obviously, Floyd and Devin, they associate, but obviously Floyd isn't promoting Devin or managing him. But they were dismissing the idea of him fighting Lomachenko. Whereas Devin Haney, it looks likely he's going to fight Lomachenko next. But even before he became champion, he was calling for Vasily Lomachenko. He wanted that smoke with Lomachenko early on. Tank Davis and his team were just like, no, we don't need that fight. You know? And with regard to Tank Davis, you know, he's obviously come up from a difficult background, Baltimore, Maryland, all that, a rough part of it. And he seems to just not be able to get away from that kind of end. I mean, someone in Tank Davis's position, if you look at the woman who did this and, you know, accusations like that, someone like Tank Davis, you know, Hatman calls them wretched or ratchet. It's not an expression I've ever really heard here. There really isn't an expression we'd use over here. But what I would say is that someone like Tank Davis, a multimillionaire, he could be, there's no reason to be with people like that, you know, a woman like that, etc. And it's not just people like Tank Davis who've gone down that road of being with women who they should really know better. I mean, if you look at Vladimir Klitschko was with that bimbo Hayden Panettiere for years, and when that relationship went south, she literally was with a guy, what, a couple of weeks later, and like, you could have seen that that's not a good girl. And Vladimir, with a PhD in, I believe, psychology, he should have known that. It just baffles me. It really does. Tank Davis, he is going to fight Hector Luis Garcia. I would imagine he's still going to fight Ryan Garcia probably come the month of April. With regards Garcia versus Tank Davis, I fully believe that if we had a Tank Davis firing on all cylinders, he would beat Ryan Garcia. Will we get that? You know, it's going to be interesting to see how he looks against Hector Luis Garcia. Will he? Because lately he's just been looking for that one shot. He's been looking for a left hand or an uppercut and just close the show. Is it going to be that? Because I think he needs to be a bit more dynamic than that against Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia, he is opened to the southpaw left, I believe, because the way he leaves his head in the air and the way he pulls back in straight lines at times. But at the end of the day, if that's all you're doing, and you're doing it rinse and repeat, and you're looking very one-dimensional in your approach, you can train for that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Tank Davis looks. In terms of, better news in the sport of boxing and an up-and-coming talent who I have very, very high hopes in, Moses Atuma. Now, I've done a video on this already. I talked about him signing a long-term promotional deal with Frank Warren. He is going to turn pro on BT Sport. Now, I've always been someone where, for me, I don't particularly like seeing fighters sign long-term deals. But I think for me, when they're turning over pro and they're quite young, I don't necessarily mind it as much. See, it's different when you're dealing with a fighter who maybe is in his mid-20s, he's been active, he's at maybe a British kind of level, and then he locks himself into a long-term deal with a promoter. That I don't like that. But when you're just turning over and you're as young as Moses Atuma is, at that age, a long-term deal, which will say a long-term deal, define long-term, which is say 2-3 years, if you can get active and he can keep you active with that deal, then, it's not that bad. I don't see it as that bad, especially someone as young as that. A long-term deal like that on a promotion on a platform like BT Sport, that could be okay. In terms of him, I've said it once, I'll say it again. I've seen him in the amateurs. He looks tremendously talented. He really, truly does. I think that he is going to be one to watch. I'd love to know when he's going to make his debut. I'd love for all three of the UK promoters, Ben Shalom, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, and they're the real big guns. Obviously we have Probellum, but we don't really know what the situation is with them. They seem to be doing shows quite sporadically. I'd love for them to announce their lineups, at least up until probably the month of March, just to kind of see the fights that are going to be announced, etc., kind of things like that. So Moses Atuma, I have very high hopes for him. I really do. I really do. He's one of those, when you just look at him and you look at the talent that's on offer. And again, he spoke about going from school, wearing his school uniform, getting in there and sparring the likes of Lawrence Okoli at age 15, and Shane McGuigan singing his praises. It takes a certain amount of confidence. I mean, at that age, to be in there holding your own with world champions, although I don't know if Lawrence Okoli, he wouldn't have been a world champion at the time, but still, nevertheless, Lawrence Okoli's a very, very good fighter. Been in there with guys like Dubois, just to name a few. So this is someone who definitely has ability, clearly has confidence there, because it takes a great deal of confidence, not just to get in the ring at that age, but the fact that you're holding your own against them. It obviously shows that, the ability is there, you're not awed by who you're sparring. And, I think that the sky is the limit for this kid. I really do. I really do. I'm going to be singing his praises. I really am, because I think that he's tremendously talented. I really see a lot of good in this kid's future. I really do. In terms of fights that was talked about for last year, which didn't end up happening, which it looks like it's going to go ahead this year on February the 18th, is Lee Wood versus Mauricio Lara. Now, obviously that fight was announced for September the 24th. It was going to clash with Parker versus Joyce. It didn't. And, obviously the card still went ahead. But that fight, which one that we were all kind of looking forward to as well, was a bit of a... because I guess at the end of the day, you kind of felt that Mauricio Lara was due a crack at a world title now. He really was. So I was a bit disappointed when that fight didn't happen. When Jordan Gill lost to Kiko Martinez, I was thinking they'll probably just do another Kiko world title fight, give him to Lee Wood. But now the talk is now that he's actually going to fight Mauricio Lara on February the 18th. Now, when this fight was being talked about originally, I was a bit worried that they try and pencil it in the same date as Anthony Yarde versus Artur Beterbiev. For me, I just don't like that. I like it when... For me, I really like it when we just have, one fight one week, maybe a big fight the next week, etc. Not when they're clashing. I don't like that. I don't like it when promoters do that. But there's talk about this fight happening on the 18th of February, which I don't believe that's going to clash with anything. I think it's going to be a standalone. And I think that's a great fight, I think stylistically both guys are going to complement one another. Mauricio Lara he doesn't really have a backwards game. He doesn't take a step back. He comes looking to take a head clean off. Lee Wood has improved massively under Ben Davison. And, again, Ben Davison, I don't think he endears himself to the public with the way he can be. He loves the camera. We know that he is he's that type of character. You know, he always has to have a say in things. But don't let that take away from Ben Davison, the trainer. He is a very good trainer. He certainly is, and I think that, you know, it was a fair criticism to say when he was with Tyson Fury. Fury was already brought to where he was by Peter Fury, which is a fair thing to say. You know, Ben Davison didn't improve anything. He just was there to kind of almost remind Tyson what he already knew. So he wasn't improving Tyson. I think that's a fair criticism. But you look at Lee Wood. Lee Wood was losing to guys like Jazza Dickens at British level. I think he was trained by Dave Coldwell. Since he's gone to Ben Davison, he's improved massively. I mean, there's no ifs or buts with that. I think that realistically Lee Wood should win this fight. But I don't know how Lee Wood is going to be after the Conlon fight, because it was a very tough fight. You know, fight of the year, yes, but he suffered a big, heavy knockdown. He was on the verge of getting stopped in the next round. You know, he really had to force that fight by the scruff of his neck, pull it out of the trenches. So it's a tough fight. Have no doubts, that's a very tough fight for Lee Wood. I think if it's Lee Wood at his best, should win. But who knows? And Mauricio Lara hits very hard. He may be the hardest punching featherweight. May very well be. So, great fight. Look forward to that one. Frank Warren has declared that he believes is the word, Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury will now get made once again. Third time the charm. Both sides are really eager. I don't think we're far off getting it on. I think we're quite close to making it happen. We will get it over the line. Now, I don't watch that much YouTube boxing. I believe Misfits, which is KSI's promotion, are doing a card on the 14th of this month. Now, I don't know who's on the card. I may watch a couple of fights on it. I may not. The YouTube boxing, what they're doing now with it is, like those Misfits cards, they're on their own. You know, if you want to watch them, they're on their own. Like, they're not. It's not like we're getting a mixture of YouTube boxing and pro boxing, real pro boxing on the same card. I do think, though, with the YouTube boxing thing, and I know I'm going a bit off from the Tommy Fury, Jake Paul thing, but I do think with YouTube boxing, having seen a couple of clips of some of the guys, I think that the British Boxing Board of Control, they need to introduce something akin to what they do for amateurs turning over. Who are not even amateurs turning over, people who turned over who've had very little pro fights. A lot of the times, I know in Ireland they do it, I think they do it in the UK as well, they get you just to spar rounds against, you know, whoever, just to see if you're competent. I think they need to do that, because some of those YouTube boxers, they really don't know what they're doing, and they could get hurt. You know, people like KSI and stuff like that, yeah, they seem okay. You know, they're not world beaters, but they know what they're doing. Some of them just don't seem to have a breeze. That could be dangerous. In terms of Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, look, I like the fight. I think it's an entertaining fight. Boxing is an entertainment at the end of the day. I've said this several times. There's entertainment to be had at all levels. A good example would be, just look at the card we had a few weeks ago before Christmas, the Chris Billam-Smith card. Look at the undercard. You had Nicky Campbell versus that, what's his name, Steve Robinson. I mean, both guys were absolutely garbage. They were garbage, but it was a fun fight nonetheless while it was going on. Both guys were swinging, there was knockdowns, there was big shots going in. Neither guy is even probably English level. But did that mean that it wasn't a good fight? Were you not entertained? I was. Boxing is as much about entertainment as it is anything else. I love seeing the best fight the best. Is Jake Paul the best at cruiserweight? Hell no, but he's got talent. Is Tommy Fury the best at cruiserweight? Well, light heavyweight, but he's never actually made light heavyweight at all in his career, so let's call him a cruiserweight. No. Is he going to go particularly far? I doubt it. Would him and Jake Paul be on a similar level in terms of where they are skill wise? Yeah. Would you say Jake Paul maybe has actually fought better level of opponents? I mean, you could certainly make that case too. I like the fight. I think it's entertaining. I want to be entertained. Obviously the fight would have to happen probably in the Middle East or in the UK, because Tommy Fury, he still ain't getting into the States, nor I believe is Tyson. Obviously the association with El Chapahan, that's the big problem, and that isn't going to go away anytime soon as far as I can gather. So that fight is going to take place this side of the pond anyway. I think it's a good fight. You know, I think it's an entertaining fight. The build-up will be fun. You know, John Fury will be able to get to some of these press conferences there, which just, you know, it's funny. it's funny seeing how triggered he gets and how mad he gets. And I think the fight wouldn't be too bad as well. So, long-winded one. I've said it once, I'll say it again. If we can get these YouTube fights and some of it trickles into real boxing, and what I mean by that is if you have these guys who are coming to these events and watching these events online on DAZN, on whatever, BT Sport, etc., if they're watching it just for the YouTube boxing, but they're entertained, and they actually take an interest in the real game, the pro game, the normal boxing, is that not a good thing? Because it means we have more eyes on the sport, it means we've got more fans. At the end of the day, boxing is really a niche sport, it is. But the more we can do to get eyes on it, is that not a good thing in the long run? And does that not mean that we're going to get more talent coming through? Because more people will watch the Jake Pauls, the KSIs, the Logan Pauls, etc., have their little things on the YouTube scene, and then get interested in the normal boxing, and then maybe say, actually, you know what, I like watching KSI fight whoever, I want to learn to box. And then in years to come, we have essentially the next generation. It's not fully going to be from that, but you can see where I'm going with it. I think that could certainly happen. I'd love to see Jake Paul, Tommy Fury. I think it'd be a fun fight. I really do. This right here, this whole Conor Ben situation, it's funny. He says, he tweeted to VADA and the WBC, I need to get a move on with my career. When will there be an explanation? My name deserves clearing, and I can't keep waiting while you carry out your internal investigation. Apparently, it was over 200 pages his team sent to the WBC and VADA, which, that is going to be just a load of jargon, a lot in that. Because if it was a case of proving your innocence, why in God's name do you need 200 and something odd pages it was? Surely if it was a logical explanation why this was in my system, well, this is it and this is it. So, your team have sent them off all that, and, you're going and saying, prove my innocence. You've never proved your innocence once. You've said that, my innocence will be proven. Where's the proof? It's not, it's not been proven. The best thing for Conor Ben to do in this situation, in my opinion, is just to don't say anything at all. Just don't say anything at all. Let the investigation happen. Whatever happens, happens. At the end of the day, he's talking with the WBC. I've said this once, I'll say it again. The WBC can't stop Conor Ben fighting. If they ban him, that doesn't ban him from fighting. It just bans him from fighting WBC sanctioned bouts. The example I've given, I'll give it 1,000 times. Oleksandr Povetkin, December 2016, failed a second drug test in the space of a year, going into a fight against Bermane Stiverne, which is for a WBC interim title. That fight got pulled, and Povetkin was banned by the WBC for a year. But Povetkin was fighting in July and December of 2017. He fought a WBA and WBO sanctioned bouts, which actually put him as mandatory challenger, funny enough, for Anthony Joshua in 2018. So just because a sanctioning body bans you, that doesn't mean that you're banned from competing, essentially, because they don't dictate, in the UK or Australia or in America. They just say, well, you can't fight for our silver title, our intercontinental, international title, etc., etc. We won't rank you. That's all the WBC ban will be. The one that I'm interested in is what UCAT are going to say on this situation, because that's the one that I'm really interested in. So that's just a bit of a rant on the whole Conor Ben situation. In terms of the fight of 2023 that we're all talking about, it's looking good. It's looking good that Tyson Fury, Frank Warren obviously gave an interview with IFL, and he's saying that they're being targeted for a date in early March. Frank Warren revealed, I'm quite confident we can get it on, but we got to get it signed. We're moving in the right direction. We've got the contract issue. He stated also that the sanctioning bodies, the 4 sanctioning bodies, are all on board, so there'll be no issues with mandatories that could prevent Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury from happening, which I'm really excited about. Tyson Fury obviously gave an interview as well with the Telegraph. He said, about Oleksandr Usyk, I should say, I don't think he's big enough and strong enough to stand up to the punches. It's a challenge, but he'll be running away like a little something all night. I will hunt him down and try to get hold of him. He'll be crushed. Very interesting. So, just in terms of everything, in terms of what Frank Warren was saying, I hope it's good news. I hope that we're close to getting this signed and sealed. You know, Oleksandr Usyk has worked with Bob Arum before, because obviously Bob Arum is obviously part of this as well. He's worked with Arum before, so there shouldn't be any issue. There shouldn't be any kind of, you know, clashing heads of promoters or anything like that. Obviously, Vasily Lomachenko was still promoted by Bob Arum and seems to be doing okay there. So I'm hoping that we get this fight announced pretty soon. I really am. I'm hoping that there's more news to come out of it. I really am. And look, I hope we get this announcement pretty soon. I hope that there's no big egos from either party. I'm not just talking about I'm talking about both, that say, oh, this contract isn't my like, and I'm hoping it's to both their like, and we can get this fight over the line. We can get undisputed heavyweight. That's what I really want. In terms of Tyson Fury, you know, I suspect with him, he knows himself that Oleksandr Usyk is going to be moving a lot. And Fury, he knows from having fought Steve Cunningham that these little guys coming up from cruiserweight, they are fast and they move. And maybe it's Tyson Fury trying to play a psychological game by kind of saying to Oleksandr Usyk, you know, you can't stand up to the punches of heavyweight. You know, you couldn't stand up to my punches. Maybe trying to get into his head to say, actually, hang on a second, you know, I'll stand and trade with you. You know, because with Tyson Fury, when he fought Steve Cunningham, you'll see in that fight, when Fury was realising, hang on a sec, I can't pin this guy down, he keeps moving. He was, you know, and he was doing it early. He was banging his chest and trying to go with Steve Cunningham in as to say, come on, let's stand toe to toe. Why was he doing that? He was doing that because he knew, right, this guy's too fast. I need to switch up the game plan. I need him to come to me because this guy is too quick. I can't, no matter how much I'm jabbing, he's getting under my jab and he's hitting me with right hands because his feet are too quick, his hands are too quick, and his head movement's too good. I can't pin him down. I think he knows that Oleksandr Usyk is going to be a similar type of character. He's going to be a similar type of obstacle in the ring to try and get on the wrap. I think when Tyson Fury does fight Usyk, he will use his size and strength to good effect. And I think he'll use it to much greater effect than Joshua did. You know, Fury spoke about, or sorry, it wasn't Fury, Dave Price spoke about Fury not going to be playing chess with Usyk for the 12 rounds. If it's not working, the boxing game, he is going to revert and he is going to change it up and decide, right, let's go. Let's use that size. Let's get lean and let's get rough in here. I can easily see that happening. You know, Fury fighting a big guy fight. Bob Arum has hinted, or stated, that Devin Haney versus Loma is essentially made. We're just looking for sites and a date will be announced shortly. The fight will happen before or right after Ramadan. Okay, interesting. So I'm looking forward to that fight. I think that that's a great fight, Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko. And I think that Devin Haney's been improving a lot. You know, he really is improving an awful lot. And I'm really impressed with how Devin Haney's been looking as of late. Loma, against Ortiz in his last fight, didn't look amazing. It has to be said. But I just think, stylistically, Loma, you could see how he can get inside on Devin Haney. Oh, it's a great fight. I'd make Haney slight favourite, I would, but I think it's a fantastic fight, Loma versus Haney. And if we can get this in 2023, again, it's another good fight. I hope we do. I really do. Now, Robert Garcia has clarified that he's not yet split with Anthony Joshua, though it's possible AJ will work with a new trainer. He said that Joshua told him about plans to train with new coaches in the US, but hasn't confirmed that they won't be working together. Robert Garcia also said that he felt, what was the words he used? AJ, he needs a stricter camp. That, you know, essentially he feels as though AJ, he could do with, I'm paraphrasing here, but he could do with a bit less S&C and a bit more boxing. You know, I've said that for a long time. I've always been someone, like, I look at the old heavyweights, and I know that, you know, Rocky Marciano, by today's standards, would be a light heavyweight, realistically. But I look at the training methods they used. I look at the diets they were on. I mean, I remember watching Marciano. I think it was in the build-up to his fight with Joe Louis. I think that was the one. I think it was actually that one. That he would eat 3 pounds of steak, potatoes, and greens every single day. 3 pounds of it. So you're talking about your beef and your protein, your carbs and your veg. That was it. Now, no Marciano, a lot smaller than the modern heavyweight. But I mean, he could throw punches for days. You know, you didn't see these guys, they're training. You'd look at it today And I suppose a modern day strength and conditioning coach would look and say, oh, they're not doing enough of this, they're not doing enough of that, etc. But it worked for them. It did. And I've always been a believer in the old school techniques. You know, it amazes me because you'd hear people who, you know, they have a background in nutrition or strength and conditioning, etc. And they'd be saying things like, you know, oh, if I was training that fighter, I'd have him on no carbs. It's like, what? What? That baffles me. Baffles me when I hear that. And then, like, I remember a fighter. It was a fighter a couple of years ago. I used to train in the same gym as him. His coach was telling me that he gave up carbs the week of a fight. And, of course, he was gassed. And he was lucky. It was only a 6-rounder against Johnny, but he was gassed after about 2 rounds. And I was like, why? Like, you know, you need that. Even if you're only doing it against the 6-rounder, you need that. Good news for Matchroom here. Dalton Smith has signed a multi-fight promotional deal with Matchroom and DAZN moving forward. Obviously, his last fight was on Sky Sports. Now, that's a good move by Eddie Hearn. I think that Dalton Smith is definitely very talented. And it's good to lock him in because when he was fighting on Sky, I was thinking if Sky have him, that's another big move for Sky Sports and Boxer. So he's committed his future now to DAZN and Eddie Hearn, which is good for Eddie Hearn. You know, it's good to see him getting someone like Dalton Smith locked in and signed. He will always be good if he's headlining his own card or if he's doing, you know, if you have a big card, say an AJ White card, he's good to have on the undercards, maybe potentially even a co-main, you never know. But that's what Eddie Hearn needs. And I think losing guys like Lerone Richards, Lawrence Okoli, etc., you might look at that and say, well, they're not going to make him that much money, which is true. But at the end of the day, they're good card fillers. Very good card fillers, and they add to a card. They really do. So I think that, you know, having someone like a Dalton Smith is a good thing, in my opinion, for Eddie Hearn, to keep him locked in. Good opinion for Eddie Hearn. I think that's pretty much it. I think we've gone on long enough. I hope this isn't too long. I didn't think this review of the week would be a long one, but I've been rambling on now for probably close to a half hour. So I think we'll call it quits there. I hope everyone is having a good time with the new year. Obviously, I'm not one for celebrating New Year's. I didn't do anything. I never really do celebrate New Year's. I haven't celebrated in many a year. For me, it's just another day. You know, it is. And I always kind of... I never really make New Year's plans. I always just kind of carry on with what I was doing and just try and make a better go of it. So here's to a new year. Hopefully for the people listening, you all have a great time. It's the start of a week, although it doesn't feel like it. It's the start of a new week. I hope you all have a great week. I hope we all get some good news. I obviously do have plans for the new year, like things that I'm hoping to get done over the line pretty quickly in and outside of YouTube, which I'm sure will go well. I've no doubts they will. And yeah, that's kind of it really. That's kind of everything in a nutshell. So I hope you all have a great week. Hope the phone rings for some good news for people listening and for me myself as well included. And yeah, we can have a lot more prosperity this year. I hope that. I'm definitely hoping. I'm praying. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, again, if you haven't already. For now, I'll talk to you. Peace.